So the organisation that we have partnered with have about 14 of these communities functioning now at all different levels of development. So some of them have been going, well, our one is the newest, so it's been going 18 months. Some have been going 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 6 years, and then there's about 3 now that have graduated. And so those communities are completely self-funding. They buy their own land, they run their own childcare, school preparation. They have their own committees that engage with the local community leaders to get roads built and sanitation and telecommunication and all that kind of thing. They're a pressure group advocating for their own community. Okay. And the only input really that we provide is the finance for the manager and the coaches and their training. And their training is such a key part of this strategy. And the organisation that we partner with, again, they use exactly the same principle for training their coaches as they do for helping their clients, the poor. It's very carefully calibrated. So you come in initially as a coach and you just have this level of responsibility. You're under someone else and you watch what they do, and then you move up to this, and then you move to this, and then you move to this, and you move to that. And so they develop. They're always developing their staff because their whole strategy is dependent on having good coaches and good managers. You see what I mean? So it's really, and the way that they do this, they've honed down how they can get the most impartation, if you like, of life skills and values with the minimum amount of personnel. So, well, what's the optimum group size? Well, they tried 10, they tried 20. No, 15 is about it. And then how many groups can one coach manage? Well, they can manage 10. They can just squeeze that in, which is they meet with each group once a week. One in the morning and then another group in the afternoons, 5 days a week, so that's 10 groups, you see. So they just honed this thing down. And so they've had some people that have been with them for 15, 16, 17, or even longer. Have they had staff with them for longer than 17 years? How long has Misan been there? Anyway, so...
Yeah, I mean, their CT program is only about that old.
Yeah.
So he came in with them as a microcredit.
Yes. Before that shift. So he's been there longer than that.
Yeah, about 20 years.
20 years, yeah. So, they had staff at all these different levels of experience that they've been trained.
Well, sorry, can I ask where the location is for this particular...
Okay, and this is in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And in the community is called North Cockshire. Unfortunately, one of the other programs that's about 6 or 7 years down the track is in South Cockshire. So yeah. But there's a reasonable distance between them. But yeah, so it made the initial task of bringing hope to that community easier because there was another successful community not too far away. So, and then what our strategy was is that when we found such a community, we would go to such a strategy or such an organisation, we would go to them and we would offer them this. We'd say, look, we're willing to fund a project, and we're also willing to fund you if you want to bring in some extra innovations, because you know what you're doing. You've been doing this for a while. If you want to do something new, something different, we're happy to take that risk. Right? Because we want to encourage you to keep on pushing the boundary, because there's always a better way. Right? So, because of that, you feel free to do that, and if it doesn't work quite so well, we can carry that. We can carry the brunt. We're not going to criticise you. We're not going to say, oh, you promised this and you haven't delivered, because we're committed to innovation. So that was the first thing. We said that we're prepared to fund a project, and we want to encourage innovation. Further innovation from what you already know. Secondly, we need your full cooperation to allow an independent, internationally respected measurement process. In other words, we believe you're the best that we can find. We want the world to know about it. we don't want them just to trust our word. We want to have an internationally recognised measurement process to happen on the project that we will fund, so that we can show the development world, okay, this is what went into this project, because they've committed contractually not to accept a dime from anyone else, so we know exactly how much money went in, and then we'll measure exactly what comes out at the other end, and that will be what we'll make available. Now that sounds very simple, measurement, say, oh, come on Paul, that's not rocket science. Well, it's more than rocket science, and it's really hard work for us, because measuring development is not as easy as it sounds, you know? And so you have to have, for example, you have to have, to make it authentic, you have to have a control group. You have to say, okay, well, this is where the intervention happened, or this is where the intervention didn't happen. But then you see, to do that, we come across one of our values, which is first do no harm. Because you see, if you go to a group of people and say, now we just want to measure your poverty so that we can prove that this group did better than you, you know, you're doing harm. You see what I'm saying? So we had all those kinds of issues that we had to wrestle with to come up with a development strategy that did no harm, but would be internationally recognised as being, you know, right up to par with modern research techniques. And the third thing that they had to agree to was training our other partners, because we were working with other partners in India, and people that were willing to question what they were doing. So there were people that were involved in development, that are involved in development, that they are our partners, so they are involved in development, and they've got connections, but willing to ask questions, willing to say, hey, maybe there is a better way. And we've found some of those people, and we're working with them, training them in this strategy that I've just outlined to you in your handout, and helping them to implement that in their own communities. And they agreed to that. So that's where we're at the moment. We are spending not a lot of our time with this group, because they don't need a lot of our help in doing what they're doing because they're so good at it. But we are spending a lot of time measuring what they're doing. That takes a heck of a lot of our time and money to do that. And we are also training our other two partners who are at various levels to begin implementing this model in their communities, so that we can learn how transferable this model is. Okay.
Do you have any preliminary, unconfirmed results on the reality of advances that are being made in these communities, or the success stories of any kind?
Yeah. One of the first things that happens in this carefully calibrated process that the clients are taken through is that they're taught how to save, and the amount that they save is tiny. It's a few cents a week, but it's a discipline that they learn. And so one of the ways that we can know, concretely that the savings is occurring is when we see a record of the bank balances that each group has accumulated. Their savings are so small. I don't know if this is interesting to you. Stop me if it's not. But so savings is a really important part of development, and it's actually quite a difficult thing to achieve, because poor people have so little money to save that no bank, no institution will take it. Because it's too small.
It costs too much
to manage
administrate it.
Yeah. So the only way that you can help poor people to save and put their money in a safe place is to group them together, which is what we do. And so that they can save, but then in order to do that, they need to have an accounting system to show exactly how much they've got, to report to their group. But that's great, because that's a task that we can train one of the people in each of the groups to do, is to be a treasurer. And so that they learn numeracy that way. See, so they don't just go to class to learn numeracy, they're actually learning to keep accounts and to show the other group members what they're doing.